Sit down and grab your lunch. It's time for the Bolts Brown Bag, the only show where you make the call.
Another week, another loss for the San Diego Chargers. Welcome to Bolts Brown Bag. As you can see, we've changed our locale a little bit. Same host, John Gennaro from the Mighty 1090 and boltsfromtheblue.com. I'm Ben Higgins, but we've moved inside today.
Yeah, a little warmer.
It's not a weather thing from what I understand, although it is kind of cool outside.
It's a little chilly. It's nice, though.
A logistics sort of thing, but I don't mind. It's kind of different being inside and talking about the same old football team that lost again and for the second straight week did not score a touchdown.
Yeah, it's a bad offense. It's a bad team, but it's a bad offense as well. I mean, they are what their record says they are, you know? They're 3-10 after 13 games. They're probably going to end up being 3-13. Overall, there's nothing positive to say about most of the team, although I do want to start off on a positive note and say the defense was very impressive yesterday and has been for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to get into the defense that is playing a little bit better in just a minute, but let's start with the negative. And in fact, let's start with the poll question because it has to do with the offense and the lack of the offense over the last couple of weeks. And I'm wondering, is play calling part of the issue?
It's got to be.
I mean, you've got to think that this is the same team that scored over 30 in Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago. So it can't just be that they don't have the talent to put up points. Granted, you know, Denver and Kansas City's defenses are better than Jacksonville's defense. A little bit. But the fact that they just can't get into the end zone makes you wonder, are they calling the right plays for these guys? Frank Reich, the offensive coordinator, has had that responsibility since the start of last season. But is it time to make a change? You have a couple of options, and I put them on the screen at 10news.com, Bolts Brown Bag.
They're right over here.
Yeah, exactly. Mike McCoy used to be a play-calling offensive coordinator, if you remember, with the Denver Broncos.
A very good one. So good it got him a job.
Exactly. Got him a head coaching job in which he decided right away, not going to do that as a head coach. I'm going to have someone who takes that responsibility. I'm going to focus on head coaching. Okay, well, it worked for the first couple of years. We'll get to the picks later. Don't need to worry about those yet. Worked for the first couple of years. Has not worked so well this season. So do you switch and make Mike McCoy the play caller, or I threw in a third option? Do you just let Phillip Rivers call his own plays for the last 3 games of the season and see how that works out?
I'm not sure how that would be different than what it currently is.
Well, they give him options, and then he can choose at the line of scrimmage.
I still don't think that's different from how it currently is. However, it bothers me, and I went ahead and I wrote a post on Bolts on the Blue this morning about the lack of experience that the Chargers have from top to bottom. President of football operations, first time he's ever done it. The GM, first time he's ever done it. Head coach, first time he's ever done it. Offensive coordinator, first time he's ever done it. Defensive coordinator, first time he's ever done it. They're all first timers, and so there's no authority, there's no experience, there's nobody in the entire organization to say, I've tried this before, it's worked, or I've seen someone try that, it doesn't work, you know, let's not do that. I think if you had a more experienced guy at head coach, or, you know, if this was Mike McCoy's second go-around, if he had already lost a job somewhere along the line, I don't think he would hesitate to say, I'm taking over the play calling. I'm obviously better at it than you are. I mean, Frank Reich, not only was he, you know, a first-time offensive coordinator, never really had anything to do with the play calling, with the Chargers, with the Cardinals. He was always underneath someone who was very experienced and adept at that. So this team, I hate to say it like this, but this team would not be 3-10 if Mike McCoy was calling the offensive plays. And if he had started calling them earlier, I think some of these losses would be wins.
You know, any team can have a bad week or even 2 offensively. You know, they just didn't have the right game plan in. They run into some tough defenses. But I saw this morning, I think it was Michael Gelkin from the Union Tribune who tweeted it out. This is the first time in Chargers franchise history that they've only scored a field goal or less in 3 out of 4 games. Never happened before in Chargers history that they've been held to this little offense in 3 out of 4 games played.
That's terrible. But it's not unexpected. I mean, Kevin Acee made the point in an article in the Union Tribune today that this is the second worst team that the Chargers have ever had, behind the 2000 Chargers that went 1-15. And he said it's even close, and if you factor in all the off-the-field stuff, it's been an even worse season for the Chargers. It's pathetic. The offense, at least, is pathetic. They can't run the ball. They can't protect their quarterback. And when they happen to protect their quarterback long enough for him to throw the ball down the field, they can't catch passes.
Now, after the game, Philip Rivers talked a little bit about the offensive struggles. He doesn't necessarily subscribe to the theory that there's something fundamentally wrong with the team.
Of course he doesn't.
He thinks that it's simply a culmination of a lot of different factors. Let's hear what Philip had to say after the game.
I can make a list of plays I wish I had back from the delayed game to the, couple throws here and there. The interception for the half. I mean, it's not a terrible decision, but it's one I knew that probably wasn't going to get in there. Do you just say, throw in the white towel and say, okay, we'll punt and just go into the half down 3-0? I mean, those kind of plays. So, Malcolm's going to be sick about that one, but how many times have we seen him do that? Not very many, So, like I said, I think that all those little things are what makes up the story of the season. Just decent in some games and really good in some games, but just not good enough. And that's what we've been.
But doesn't Philip Rivers have a bit of a point there that, you could look at a lot of these games and say, okay, don't take the delay of game penalty and just punch it in from a half yard. You're in overtime. Make one play here or there in several of the games. In fact, I went back and looked. In the 10 losses, 6 of them could have gone the other way up until the final minute.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you're a good team, but does it mean that you're that far off and you have to make wholesale changes to the offense, to the roster, to the coaching staff, to the front office?
He's right and he's wrong. And you've seen enough games the last few years with the Jacksonville Jaguars, or, give me any also-ran in the NFL. They're normally losing by 6, 7, 8 points, not by 20, 30 points. There's no team in the league that regularly gets blown out. They're all close. The difference is, at the end of that game, they're on the 1-yard line. There's about 10 seconds left in the game. And the Chargers have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. Even after a timeout, they have no idea what they're doing. That is absolutely horrendous coaching. They need to know, before that drive ever starts, hey, we're running low on timeouts or we're out of timeouts. If we get down near the end zone with a few seconds left, we're going to punch it in or we're going to run this play. Not this, I have no idea what's going on, the clock is ticking, I'm running out of time, delay of game, now whatever we were planning on doing, we need to change and try again. Oh, now we're 5 yards back even more. Whatever we thought we were going to be able to do from 5 yards out, we now need to do from 10. It's terrible coaching. And the players from top to bottom, we'll even go with the Jaleel Addae penalty, another stupid penalty from Jaleel Addae. Everything about this team is stupid. The play calling is stupid. The penalties the players pick up are stupid. Everything about them are stupid. And it's not that I think the players are stupid. They're just not prepared. You look at the Patriots, those players are not smarter than the players on the Chargers. They're just better prepared.
I'm smiling because I can picture Luke Smith feverishly typing to our Bolts Brown Bag Twitter account, everything about this team is stupid. Quote John Gennaro.
Hashtag stupid.
Hashtag stupid.
Yeah.
All right, this brings us to our first question, and you can send your question and comments in using the hashtag Bolts Brown Bag. It comes from our friend Sports Brain, who asks, do you think it's time to shut Rivers down for the season? No point in risking an injury at this point. Yes. I mean, logic tells you why not? Why would you ever play your quarterback? But I think there's some things in the NFL that go beyond simply the logic of wins and losses and draft picks. Philip Rivers has started every single game of his career. I think it's a point of pride to Philip Rivers that he's always out there. The leadership of being the quarterback, what does it say to the rest of the team when he just shuts it down and disappears the last 3 games of the season? It's not going to happen, so I don't know that we should be asking for it to happen because there's just no chance that's going to be what Philip Rivers decides.
No, it's not time to shut down Philip Rivers. That time was a week ago. After they lost to the Broncos, it was time to get Philip Rivers off the field. And yes, there's a point of pride. He's played every single game. He wants to be out there. I understand that. If you can't protect him, if you can't guarantee his safety, he should not be out there. And I was thinking about this, I think it was a week or 2 ago, when you threw out the idea of an 18-game NFL season, but the players can only play 16 games. And I was thinking about this over the weekend because I was watching soccer, right? And I don't want this to turn into some sort of soccer show, but very quickly, the team
No one wants that.
I know. The team that I was watching had a game on Saturday, a game on Thursday, and then another game on Saturday. So 3 games in the course of 1 week. And they had to decide, there was no player on the team outside of the goalie that they were comfortable with playing all 3 games. It's just too much wear and tear on your body. You're going to be worn out. So they had to decide, okay, these players will play Saturday and Saturday. These players will play Saturday and Thursday. These players will play Thursday and Saturday. And it was I started thinking about your theory, going, oh, well, maybe we'll just give them 18 games. But, they decide, if they want to play 18, they can, but you're going to wear your players out. And that whole thing. Right now, a smart team, a soccer team, would go, what is the point? What is the point? If you want to play Phillip Rivers, what is the point? Pride? Ego? There's no point.
Well, perhaps the most successful professional coach in America right now operates under that same philosophy. Greg Popovich of the San Antonio Spurs, who knows an 82-game NBA season is very long, so he sits down Kawhi Leonard. He sits down Tim Duncan. Every couple of weeks, they're off, you know, for whatever reason.
They go on road trips and don't take those guys.
Right, exactly. He gives his players rest so that they're fresh when playoff time comes around, making them pretty dangerous. And I think they'll be dangerous to the Warriors when playoff time comes around because of that.
And nobody has had a more successful veteran team than Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. So I think at this point you have to ask yourself, why? Any decision that they make from here on out, the next 3-4 weeks of the season, has to come with a why, and there has to be a good reason for it.
Let me get to another question here, and then we'll talk a little bit about the defense. From Philip Rivers, who says, there's a video of Melvin Ingram smiling and cutting it up after the game yesterday while Rivers was inconsolable. Do we lack any sense of leadership and attitude on this team? Outside of Rivers, no one seems to give a crap.
Did you see the video?
I did see the video, and it's Melvin Ingram exchanging jerseys and laughs with the Kansas City Chiefs while Rivers has got kind of a towel on his head hanging on the sideline. And it was a very telling cut. Whoever was doing the directorial calls, it made for an interesting conversation.
It was a fantastic narrative played out in about 8 seconds, because you're looking at Rivers going, as they're showing Rivers on his knees at the end of the game, he's beaten up. There's grass and dirt stains on him. His elbows are bloody, and he just looks like, his child died. He looks like he could never be more upset with anything in his entire life. And you're like, wow, this guy cares so much. And then there's Melvin Ingram, not with a teammate, with a player from the opposing team that just beat him, laughing, not talking, not just normal, laughing like he heard the funniest joke and he's in the best mood. And it's just black and white. Some guys just don't care. And I don't know if Melvin Ingram doesn't care. That's maybe a little far, but he doesn't care the way Phillip Rivers cares, and maybe he should.
It is hard to just read into something after the game. I mean, do they have to be, inconsolable to mean that they care? Not necessarily.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that they're not trying 100% when they're on the field to win.
Let me ask you if you think, because you know these guys better than I do. You go in the locker room, you talk to these players. Do you think that, the position Melvin Ingram was in, talking to another player immediately after a loss, laughing and whatever, do you think Malcolm Floyd, Antonio Gates, or Eric Weddle, or LaDainian Tomlinson would ever do that?
No.
In any situation?
I don't.
Neither do I.
I mean, they would do the perfunctory, handshake, good game.
Stone-faced, they'll go in the locker room and be like, we almost had him.
And if you've got a friend on the other team, you go see him after they come out of the locker room, behind closed doors.
Go have dinner.
An hour later, that's fine.
Go have dinner.
All right, let's talk about something a little more positive, and that is the defense, which
it's been fantastic.
Has not given up a point in the second half the last 2 weeks, by the way. 0 points in the third or fourth quarter against the Broncos and Chiefs, and they still haven't won the game because the offense hasn't scored. But Jason Verrett came up with another interception yesterday. He and Eric Weddle talked a little bit about the defense's performance after the game.
We just coming out there with an edge. Just thinking that we just got to create turnovers and put our offense in the best position to make a play.
We just wish we could have made another play or two. We fought, we didn't give up, we kept giving our offense a chance, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. You don't want to just tip your hat to the Chiefs. They made a couple more plays than us, but you got to be proud of the way we played as a leader, and guys didn't give up, kept fighting, kept believing in each other and the team, and that's all you can ask for at this point.
All right, so here's my question to you, John. Mm-hmm. Is what we've seen the last 2 weeks from this defense real or not?
Define real.
Real meaning something that if they bring back this core of defensive players, could be carried over into next season with quality defensive play.
Yes, but with a caveat. they need to bring back Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle has been playing fantastic. He's been playing very, very good football the last few weeks, and it doesn't look like he's coming back to the Chargers. So if he's gone, yeah, Jason Verrett looks like a fantastic player. Denzel Perriman looks like a fantastic player. You know who looks great lately that's not getting enough credit is Manti Te'o. With Denzel Perriman next to him, he has found his role, and he's playing great football. Patrick Robinson played very well in place of Brandon Flowers and probably will for the remainder of the season. But if Jaleel Addae and some random person is your safety next year, your safety tandem next year, they're going to get thrown on a lot. They're going to give up a lot of big, deep plays because right now Weddle is instrumental in the success that they're having.
I do think that if you're going to take something positive into next season from this season, and there's very little positive you can take, it's Denzel Perriman and Jason Verrett, and the fact that if they're healthy and on the field, those guys are going to be good for years to come.
Absolutely.
For the San Diego Chargers. That's exciting for
Yes.
Chargers fans.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it's been a while since the Chargers have had a young, drafted by the team, rookie or second-year player that's had this much promise. It's been probably since Sean Merriman, actually. And so it's a wonderful thing to see. They're basically the defense's version of Keenan Allen. And you know, for all the heat Tom Telesco took last week for why did you sign him to a contract extension and all of that, he has drafted some very good players, and those guys deserve to be brought up when you talk about his resume. But at the end of the day, outside of those players, the roster's got so many holes that you feel like they're going to get. And this is going to become a thing with me. I think they're going to get Riversed, which is there's going to be so many problems around them that it doesn't matter how good they are. They're always going to the stats are not going to be great, or they're not going to win a lot of games, and I'm going to feel bad for them.
All right, all signs have pointed toward Eric Weddle not going to be returning next season with the Chargers. Mm-hmm. Conversely, a new sign this morning that Antonio Gates may in fact be coming back. He spoke to the San Diego Union Tribune and said he doesn't want to go out a loser, and he wants to possibly give it at least one more shot to have a good season and come back next year. Now,
did he say to the San Diego Chargers?
I don't know, and he's not signed for next season.
He's a free agent.
But I agree. Kevin Acey was the one who was writing the column. I agree. The Chargers would be insane if they don't want to bring Antonio Gates back, at least on a one-year deal, whatever he wants at this point. I mean, you got to have some stars to market a team here or in Los Angeles, and Antonio Gates is one of the bona fide stars that they have. And it's not like he's being unproductive. He was the leading receiver yesterday for the team and continues. While he may not be prime Antonio Gates, he's certainly a much better option than a whole lot of other guys that they have on the field right now.
It's a really interesting predicament because Antonio Gates, I mean, it said a lot when he said, I don't want to go out a loser. Because right now, if winning was that important to you, would you sign a 3-year deal with the San Diego Chargers? Would you think sometime in the next 3 years they're going to have a winning record?
I wouldn't bet on it, but it is the NFL. You get teams that go from 4-12 to 10-6 there all the time.
You do, but if Antonio Gates is, deciding between a 1-year contract offer from the San Diego Chargers and a 3-year contract offer with the Carolina Panthers or some other team, the Green Bay Packers, I think he's going to take the years, I think he's going to take the money, and I think he's going to take the team that does things a little bit better. And it's interesting because the team can't really afford to sign him to a 3-year contract because Ladarius Green is also a free agent. You kind of need to decide between those two guys. If you pick Gates, you're probably picking him for a year, and then you have to use a draft pick on a tight end. It's almost not smart to bring him back if you're trying to win games.
But it's interesting you bring up the Carolina Panthers, who I believe were 3-8-1 at just about this time last year. Mm-hmm. Basically what the Chargers are, 3-9, now 3-10.
Yep.
Have not lost a regular season game since. Won 4 in a row to get to 7-8-1, which got him into the playoffs.
Just barely.
And now 13-0 to start this season. Pretty much the same team, have not lost since.
Right. I mean, you could be the Panthers, and they've ridden their defense, and they've ridden a quarterback who is, fantastic, as good as Rivers, if not a little bit better, and not much around them. The difference is their offensive line has been great. Their running game has been consistent. That's what the Chargers lack. And Hank Bauer said it on Mighty 1090 this morning. He said, you cannot win games in the NFL if you don't win up front. And the Chargers don't. The defensive line gets pushed around. The offensive line gets pushed around. That's why they have the struggles. If they can fix those lines overnight, they can become a winning football team again.
Not to push back too much on this, but when the season started, we were all lauding the Chargers' offensive line.
I said 12-4.
I mean, they brought in a big line. They brought in Melvin Gordon to run behind that line.
Yep.
It looked like they had the right combination to do exactly what we're telling them that they should do now.
It absolutely
They tried, but because of injuries and underperforming guys, both on the line and Melvin Gordon, they failed. And it's not the team that they had drawn up on the board when the season started.
They have had 4 massive failures. The center position has been a total failure for 2 years now. DJ Fluker can't stay healthy and probably needs to start thinking about his life after football. Orlando Franklin has been a disaster. I don't know why. Even when he's healthy, he's bad. And then the fourth has been not just Melvin Gordon, but the fact that the team continues to stick with him, continues to give him carries, continues to say, we're trying to win games. We want to win games. And yet they continue to. He was outgained rushing yesterday by Alex Smith, the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hey, he's a fast quarterback.
He is a slightly athletic quarterback. But when it was predictable. I think Chris Ello asked me yesterday, towards the end of that game, who has more rushing yards right now, Alex Smith or Melvin Gordon? Because he knew what the answer was going to be. He didn't know what it was, but he knew what it was going to be. That's how bad Melvin Gordon is, and they continue to stick with him. If you're going to do that, if you're going to keep giving him carries, then you have to admit to yourself that you're not trying to win football games.
All right, we do have to give out a Bolts Brown Bagger of the Game award, and I don't know if John could even possibly guess who won this week's award. You ready for it? All right, let's see it. The Bolts Brown Bagger of the Game is, yes, the long snapper Mike Wint, who recovered a fumble. Good hustle by the long snapper. Plus, I figured it was raining, the ball was wet.
It was wet.
All of his snaps back were good. Hey,
this is retroactive because you probably always wanted to give one to David Bin, but he's not with the team anymore. So straight to Mike Wint. Either that or we've run out of players.
Actually, he wasn't the only long snapper in the AFC West to recover a fumble yesterday. John Kondo of the Raiders also did in their upset win over the Broncos. So big day for the long snappers in the AFC West.
You have too much time on your hands, my friend.
All right, let's check out. You mentioned Chris Ello. He's part of our NFL Picks contest. So let's check out the standings. And boy, with just 3 weeks left, it is tight.
Yeah.
Tight.
We've been tied for 3 weeks
Good
now.
week for all of us. We all nailed our upset 3-point selection. Redskins for you, Saints for me, Steelers for Chris. We all got our 1-point straight-up picks with the best bets, Packers, Chiefs, and Panthers. But Chris picked up 2 points on us, getting the Thursday night game. Vikings easily covered that 8.5-point spread. We both lost pick'em games. You took the Lions, I took the Colts.
Yeah, how's that happen?
Chris picks up a couple of points. We're still tied, 46-46. He's only 3 points behind, 43. This is shaping up as a fantastic finish.
By the way, as far as those spread picks go, I think those may have been the first 2 pick'em picks we've had all year long, and we both lost.
Yeah.
We just went, we don't even need the spread. We know who's going to win, and we were wrong.
Coin flip? No. Didn't work for us either way.
All
right, time to bring in our web editor, Ferris, for his 3 questions around the NFL this week. And you can step in. You want a chair or you want to stand?
I can just stand.
All right, you can just stand. Go for it, Ferris.
Nice and tall.
So first question, which team do the Pats are the clear favorite in the AFC.
Sure.
If there's any team they want to avoid, which team would it be if they were playing the AFC title game?
That's
Who would
easy.
you not want to play?
Super easy. You don't want to play the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was going to say the same thing.
Because the offense right now is absolutely unstoppable. They may be the only team in the league that the Patriots can't go into the game and say, we'll just outscore them. Because they can go pound for pound with them. However, I don't want to steal your pick, but however, there are a couple teams out there with amazing defenses that could probably give Tom Brady a headache.
Well, it's amazing how they haven't really missed a beat without Le'Veon Bell. As long as Ben Roethlisberger's in there, they've been great. So I was thinking of saying the Steelers as well. The Broncos are the obvious choice. I mean, they've already beaten them once, so they've got the confidence to know that they can do it. But now that now that the Broncos lost to the Raiders and the Patriots have passed them, I don't see the Broncos beating them in Foxborough.
No.
Maybe in Denver in a rematch, but no chance beating them twice if they have to go to Foxborough.
Right.
So I agree. Pittsburgh is the
Do you think it's interesting
team.
though? You said Pittsburgh, but right now, if the playoffs started today, Pittsburgh isn't even in the playoffs. They're
No,
seventh.
but if they win out, that would flip. So they do control their own destiny. If they win out, the Chiefs Jets and Steelers, it would actually be the Chiefs and the Steelers who make the playoffs, and the Jets would be out.
What I think is more interesting is the fact that you didn't mention the Bengals at all in your first question.
They're not out of it. I mean, they did say Andy Dalton is not going to have surgery on his thumb.
That's
so
a good sign.
He's hoping to be back week 17. I think that's very optimistic. But if somehow the Bengals can get a bye and give them an extra 2 more weeks to recover, then you can still consider the Bengals an option.
Well, they play the Broncos week 16 Monday Night Football. That'll decide.
Probably.
The
bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, question 2.
Okay, question 2. If you were the Texans, you could travel back in time to the 2014 draft. Would you still take Jadeveon Clowney, or would you go with Khalil Mack?
I still take Clowney.
I trade the number 1 pick for a quarterback. And I'm probably, running away with the AFC South right now with a real quarterback.
Look, they're almost running away with it anyway.
That's not an option.
They started 1-5 and then went 5-1 over their next 6 games before getting steamrolled by the Patriots yesterday. They're doing okay, even without the quarterback. So I don't know that you can necessarily question the decision to bring in Clowney because their defense is fantastic.
I keep suggesting that Houston could be that 1-year landing spot. If Peyton Manning really wants to come back next year, wants to win, but the Broncos don't want to block Brock Osweiler anymore, that Houston would be a place where he could go and has enough pieces around him that if he is at all Peyton Manning, he could actually be successful there.
Bill O'Brien, for all the criticism he took, during Hard Knocks and in the preseason, has done a very good job with, I think they're on their 3rd or 4th running back. He's on his 2nd quarterback, who I think was also his 1st quarterback. And with a lot of injuries and missing pieces, he's finding ways to win games.
All right, question number 3.
So 3rd question, should penalty calls like pass interference, holding, should they be reviewable in the last 2 minutes of a game? And I'm thinking, in this case, an example, the Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary. The play before, they called a face mask. If you look at the replay, it wasn't.
I'm going to say no, simply because there can be game-deciding plays that happen at 2:01.
Yep.
And so it doesn't decide the game at 2:01 because they can't review it, but if it happens at 1:59, then it decides the game. There's just not enough consistency in that rule. I'm not opposed to exploring a little more review for plays like that, but just to say the last 2 minutes, I mean, it's almost an arbitrary cutoff point. Well, now it decides the game, but it didn't 30 seconds ago. It did. There
was that study that happened a couple years ago that said if you watch a 3-hour football game, you really only get about 11 minutes of NFL action. I think we've crossed the threshold where penalties and reviews and all of that is actually, you're getting more than 11 minutes of that. So you're actually getting more penalties and garbage and arguing about, was that a fumble? Was that not? Is that a catch? What is a catch? Than actual football action. I'm so sick and tired of the referees slow-mo, high-def, instant replay deciding who's winning football games. That's not how it should be.
It is amazing. We spend Sundays as a society parsing the minutia of the rule book of the NFL endlessly on social media with each other.
Yes.
I mean, we spend an entire day of the week doing that.
Ben, help me out here, because you're the oldest one of the 3 of us, I think. Back when you started watching football, was there this much conversation about the rules and the rule book?
No, not at all. Of course, the picture was so fuzzy that you really couldn't tell.
You had to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Of anything, so you just assume the referee probably got it right because they saw it much more clearly than you could have on television. Now we can see it so much more clearly than the referees can in live action.
So you're saying human error is part of the game. It should be part of it.
I'm saying no, but when it gets to the point where criticizing human error you're doing more of that than criticizing actual athletic play, then you've lost the sport and it's not football anymore. Now you're just judging as a society.
I'm a big proponent of how about just make less errors to begin with. And Mike Pereira, who's the former rules official and now network analyst, suggests how about making the referee position a full-time job all year long?
Absolutely.
And all you focus on is referee, rules, you review, you train. Right now, Ed Hockley's a lawyer. They got week jobs, and then they fly in on the weekend and do the games, and then the rest of the year they do their day jobs, and they still get paid pretty well. I think the referees make about $150,000 a year just for the
part-time
17
jobs,
weekends that they work, plus a couple of seminars and meetings that they have to attend. So good job if you can get it. How about pay them a little bit more out of that billion-dollar business you've got, and say, you know what, this is your only job now. If you want to be an NFL ref, it's 365 days a year, and when you're not working, you're training, you're brushing up on all these rules. There should never be any mistakes on at least knowing what the rules are, but we still even see that.
And there should be some sort of, there is a review process now. They send around, you made this many mistakes, you made this many mistakes after they review, but there's no punishment for it. I think there's a reward if you do a very good job, you get to referee the Super Bowl or some playoff games, but it should be a rule. If you get more than 30% of your calls wrong, you're fired or you're suspended for a few weeks until that comes up and you're on probation. It should be more than what it is now to eliminate the amount of time we spend complaining about the referees.
Ferris, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Let's talk quickly about next week, because the Miami Dolphins are in town. I don't know that we really care about the game so much.
It could be any team at all.
It's pretty much a pick-em game from what I've seen so far. It's the fact that it may very well be the last game ever at Qualcomm Stadium.
Right.
It's the final home game of the season. We don't know if the Chargers are going to be back. A lot of people think they won't be back next year. Mm-hmm. There will be no more Chargers games. There will be no more NFL games at Qualcomm Stadium. And an over 50-year history, or close to 50-year history, of football at that stadium comes to an end. That's sad, no matter how you cut it.
It's very depressing. Actually, I talked with a writer from LA who was doing a story on this game, just because it's potentially the last game of NFL football played in San Diego. And he said, what do you think the feeling's going to be with the crowd? Are they going to be angry? And I said, you can't be angry when there's nothing to direct your anger towards. We as fans, we're not angry at the players. And yeah, we're angry at the coach, but that's just because he stinks, the same way we were angry at Norv or Mike Riley. We as fans are angry at the ownership. We're angry at the politicians. We're angry, but we're not going to have anywhere to direct our anger on Sunday, so we're just going to be sad instead.
It's going to be awkward because the team will obviously not talk at all about the fact that it could be the last game. There's going to be no ceremony or moment where
there's not going to be a memorial video that goes up.
No, I mean, it's going to have to be all fan-driven and fan-engaged if they want to, make this into something special or notable or memorable as the last game. But I don't know if there's going to be more Chargers fans, if there's going to be more Dolphins fans, or if there's just going to be more empty seats on Sunday. I think, how Mike McCoy has been pumping in opposing crowd noise at practice. This week, you should just kind of pump in apathy. The overwhelming sound of apathy.
Groaning and sighing. I will say, and I was somewhat interested in possibly attending this game as a fan. I was thinking about buying a ticket and going, and I looked up prices, and they're well above $200 for bad seats, which tells me that everyone wants to go see Qualcomm one last time. And I don't know if they want to go cheer the Chargers one last time. My guess is they do. I think the tailgates are going to start early. I think they're going to end late. And I think there's going to be a lot of Charger fans in the seats, but I don't think they're going to be cheering very loudly. I think they're just going to be sitting there sadly, quietly. And I think there's going to be a lot of signs. It's going to be interesting to see how many signs there are about leaving for LA, anti-LA, anti-Spanos, anti-Fabiani, and if the Chargers go around and take those signs away from fans so that they don't get put on camera.
And I hope there's a lot of designated drivers afterwards.
There
following
should be.
All that
There
tailgating
absolutely
and
should be.
Sorrowful, toast to the end of Chargers football.
Let's hope it's a wonderful day for Uber.
And I'm not convinced because I mean, there was another report out yesterday that the owners really don't want the Raiders to be a team that moves to Los Angeles, and the Chargers have hitched their wagon with the Raiders, and that may prevent the NFL from approving the Chargers to move to LA. If they won't work with the Rams, they're not going to send the Raiders there. So the Chargers, they may tell Dean Spanos, hey, you got to stay in San Diego because we're not going to approve your plan as long as you're married to the Raiders. So this is not over yet either, which kind of leaves us in a state of limbo even more so for the final 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
All right, poll question. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Luke, can you just shout them out to me?
Hold on. I can pull them up.
53, 20. 73% say Rivers should call the plays. 27 say McCoy. 20 for McCoy and 7 for Frank
Well,
Reich to keep the play
I have to
calling
vote
duties.
again. I'm going to change this up.
All right.
So there you go. So now it's Philip Rivers 69%. You can probably tell who I voted for. Frank Reich 6%, Mike McCoy 25%.
Okay, so
Most people just think let Rivers call the plays. And that falls into what I was saying. The fans aren't angry at the players. We know it's not their fault. We know the losses aren't their fault. As much as we want to get angry because Melvin Ingram isn't crying, after a game, we know it's not Melvin Ingram's fault that the team is not winning games.
And calling plays for a 3-10 team, yes, it's like changing the deck chairs on the Titanic from the starboard side to the port side.
Yep.
Not going to really make a huge difference, especially if everyone's getting fired at the end of the season.
Yep.
But it's something to talk about for last
Sure.
weeks. And we will be back next week to talk about that maybe last ever game at Qualcomm Stadium. Did people rip out seats? Did they take souvenirs? It's going to be fascinating to see what happens.
I, if I would go, would probably be one of those people trying to take a seat with me.
All right, for John Gennaro from the Mighty 1090 and BoltsFromTheBlue.com, I'm Ben Higgins. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Bolts Brown Bag at 10news.com. Hey, overhead shot.
Hey!